All right, ladies and gentlemen, or mostly gentlemen. I don't see too many
Actually, probably
men,
mostly ladies. Let's be honest.
mostly ladies. Hey,
Yeah, it's
ladies.
you and me, man.
Hey,
It's you
to
and me.
the man therapy podcast. Okay. Uh, that would be crazy to check our demographics out and actually see if any women listen to this. But I will
Yeah.
say this: I know that my wife has has told me she's going to be listening to it, so I got to be careful what I say, not to piss her off. But but I on my other podcasts that I do, I generate content that is heavily for men, and I think my demographic is like 98% men and then 2% women. But I think the 2% that are women are just men listening through their woman's accounts or
Mm,
following along on their
uh,
wife or girlfriend's account. So
yeah,
so I don't know,
that's
dude.
funny.
Anyway, how you been, man?
Yeah. Maybe they're like, like, have you ever accidentally like opened the door to the women's restroom just because you weren't paying attention and you're like, oh shit, nope, that's not mine. You
Yeah,
have to leave real quick
yeah.
with your tail between
And
your
then
legs. Maybe that's
then you get arrested.
it. Yeah, God, I hate it. It just keeps happening.
I hate when that happens. Yeah.
It's
Repeated
so annoying.
behavior. It's
Yeah,
at some point it becomes okay, it's not an accident anymore, Kyle.
yeah, yeah. Your excuses are wearing thin, bud.
We
Yeah.
got
No, I'm
another
doing
one.
good. Yeah, yeah, I'm doing good. Life's been really good. Life's been very busy, and 4th of July was really fun, and lots of
Yeah.
family time and lots of time in the sun. So yeah, things are good on my end. How about you?
Busy, man. It's to that time of year where the other part of my business starts to creep up to peak season, which is like October, November timeframe, and for everything else that I do. And so now it's ramp up stage. It's basically that time of year to get organized, but it's hard to start that process until baseball and vacations are over. So
Yeah,
I'm working like double duty. I've been working a lot of late evenings into like the 10 o'clock 11 o'clock time frame some days, and it's one of those things where I am making the decision to give up part of my work day for my kids and for family, and
yep,
then and then after 8 o'clock start working again. I'll take them to the
yeah,
batting cage. I'll take them swimming. I'll do whatever I need to do to, because my wife also works from home. So she gets
yep,
pretty stressed out when she has a meeting, the kids are in the house making noise. Like yesterday, for
yeah,
example, our, our neighbor boys, they're polite. They're very nice, great family. They knock on the door every time they come in and out of our house. So the dog starts barking.
right,
And so that leads to a lot of stress. And so I
yeah,
just told them, don't even knock on our door anymore. Just come in the house.
yeah,
Just come in the house. You're not going to get in trouble. That's going to backfire someday where somebody's coming out of somewhere doing
yeah,
something and there's some nudity involved, or somebody
right.
like having a breakdown or something, and they see that and then they go back to tell their parents, and then I don't know. But at least the
Yeah,
dog's not barking.
yeah, yeah. There you go. You have less dog
Yeah.
barking, so yeah, and your
Yep.
wife will have more mental resources to deal with that stress because she will get less stress on a regular basis. So it'll work
That's a
out.
fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode?
I don't think so, man. I'm hungry. Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay. So before we do this, though, I am going to send a friendly reminder to all of our listeners, or our listener out
Oh,
there, who if you like what the Man Therapy podcast is providing, go to iTunes or Spotify, leave a 5-star review, and let everybody know. Like, hey, I like this podcast. I like the direction that these guys go. Leave a review. What that does is that helps other people find out about the podcast and the content that we're putting out here. And we're keeping it very casual as of right now. We got Kyle, and he brings a really good professional aspect to this. So maybe make a comment on that. And then I'm just kind of a Neanderthal who has been podcasting a long time, so I'm here by default. So, uh, so, Kyle.
disagree, man. I think you're selling yourself short.
Okay, so
Selling
Um,
yourself short, I think.
fear
Go ahead.
is today's topic. Fear. So you texted me and you're like, hey, what are we doing today? And I threw a couple ideas your way and you kind of bit on fear, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
when I said fear, what is it about fear, specifically for men, that maybe you hear a lot of or see a lot of in
Yeah.
your daily interactions with your patients?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I hear a lot of men feeling a lot of pressure to succeed in life. And it's like they put pressure on themselves to succeed the first time and to
Yep.
just kill everything. And
Yep.
when I got a term from a client that I've been using ever since he said it, and I asked his permission to keep using it after he said it to me. But he said I realized I've been trying to perfect game life. And so every decision he was trying to make, he was putting a lot of pressure on himself to do well. And I won't talk too much about him specifically, so I don't want to like single any one person out. But I thought that was really succinct, a really succinct way to say it. He's trying to perfect game life. I think a lot of us do that. I think it's probably gotten worse since social media that we can see so much of like other people's successes and you know, we all know that social media is like totally fake, but it's hard for us to keep that in mind on a minute to minute basis, I think, when we see everybody else's social highlight reel. So
Yep.
I think that's probably the main thing that I hear is men. Well, it's more than that. So it's thinking that they need to be successful right away the first time and like really successful. It's also um, fear of judgment. Like they don't want to be judged negatively, and they think anything other than perfection is bad. And there's a lot of pressure put on them from family and parents, and then competition between friends. But I think I've been surprised in counseling to hear how much pressure has come from spouses. Uh, by and large, my clients' friends have been super supportive, and I've been surprised to hear how much pressure some guys' spouses put on them. I feel really lucky that my wife is very supportive, but man, I've been some guys have let me into their inner worlds and talked about how much pressure their partners put on them to carry the load for the family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of old school on some of those things. Like, I believe that's a man, like where I come from, I believe that's a man's responsibility. And I think men were uniquely designed to be able to handle more pressure than women. That's just my take on that. So um, I have no problem in my world carrying a lot more of that pressure just because the opposite isn't necessarily true. Like
Yeah.
or they carry a different kind of pressure for the partner carries a different kind of pressure in a marriage or things
Hmm.
like that. So
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
lot to break down right there.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So I think I want to start where um I have the most experience and things that I personally would love to hear what you have to say about. And that is the failure or the fear of failure. And then how that maybe turns into even a fear of success. Okay.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
but before I do that, I have to let everybody know here that I forgot to turn my air conditioner on at the beginning of this podcast or at the end of my last podcast that I recorded. So I came up into my office and it is like 85 degrees in here. And I have the old man chest hair dripping sweat into my belly button type thing going on right now. So I hate to do this, but I am going to turn my air conditioner on in here.
Turn it on, dude.
So you guys are going to hear some background noise, but there's two options. I'm just going to sweat through this shirt and be extremely uncomfortable, or you guys are going to have to deal with a little background noise. So I have selected background noise for
There'll
this.
be a
So one
little problem.
second.
That'll be all right. That'll be all right.
I should be a professional by this point and have it all kind of figured out, but obviously I don't. So, okay.
No,
And
no worries.
hopefully it goes away when I edit all of it out, but that's not a big deal. It is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Fear of failure. Or
Yeah.
yes, fear of failure. So, I'm going to talk just a little bit about where I was at. So, fear of failure for me comes in many different levels. And most of the fear of failure comes in two main categories for
Uh-huh.
me. And it's fear of the job that I'm doing as father and husband, and then fear of failure for business,
Yep.
the business aspect that I'm in.
Okay.
And when I when I had a when I was starting my business back in 2014, it literally took me 3 years of brutal, like raising kids, putting them to bed, working till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then having to uh, do that for about 3 years, to the point where I was almost ready to give up. I was almost ready to give up. And what
Uh-huh.
that did was it like that fear actually motivated me in a way, in kind of a
Mhm.
way, but it was like the saying, burning the candle at both ends,
Yeah.
you know? And so my patience and my time and the energy and the effort was slowly fading away until after 3 years worth of doing something that it connected. Right. And
Uh-huh.
it started to take off, and I started to see returns on all of the sweat equity that I was putting into my business. And
Mhm.
that's a money thing, right? And that's the fear of having to sit in a job that I did not want to be in. And that fear kind of motivated me to do so basically what I'm saying is fear can be paralyzing, and fear can also be highly motivating. And so, do
Yeah.
you have you seen that same type of example from
Oh, yeah.
people that you've been working with?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What's the saying that like when something is squeezed, you find out what's inside it, right? Like you kind of
Uh-huh.
find out what you're made of when
Yep.
when you're under a lot of pressure, right? And so I've seen it go both ways. I've probably seen it go both ways in my own life as well, of like having a lot of fear about something and it propelling me forward, like, all right, I just have to attack, I just have to move, I just have to do this. And also fear feeling insurmountable, or me thinking that there's no way that I'd be successful at it. So deciding to tuck tail and run. Um, it's a driving force behind people who have ADHD to put them into action. Like everybody has a threshold that will put them into action. And a lot of times people with ADHD have to have their backs up against the wall before they'll do something. And they'll feel like they're avoiding, they'll feel like they're procrastinating, all these things. But like only when it's the 11th hour and they actually like absolutely have to get something done will that spark them into action. So yeah, fear is a pretty well-known motivator. Um, it's nice if you know that you're the type of person that springs into action when you're afraid, but I think it's really, really common to shrink from fear and to want to avoid. And the problem is we if you avoid one thing, then it makes it easier to avoid the next thing. And then it makes it easier to avoid the next thing. And then you've got this bad habit going of avoiding discomfort instead of leaning into discomfort. Um,
Yeah.
there's a there's a type of theory of therapy and a theory called acceptance and commitment therapy. And the basic tenet behind acceptance and commitment therapy is that you can live your life in one of two ways. You can either live your life in service of avoiding discomfort, and if you decide to go that route, it means that like anything that comes up that feels uncomfortable to you, you choose the short-term momentary like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. That sounds scary. That could go bad." And you just decide not to do it. And that gives you relief because then you don't have to. You don't have to face it. Um the problem with that is that you live a smaller and smaller and smaller life. You're not building anything. You're not going after anything. You're just protecting yourself moment by moment throughout life. And so
Yeah.
you end up not even living life according to your goals or your values or anything. It just all comes down to like, how can I avoid discomfort today? And so
Yeah.
then the other side of that is living your life according to your values and your goals. But the caveat there is if you're going to live a value driven life, a value oriented life, it means that you have to accept the discomfort that comes with it. So you, I mean, you're a great example of this. You were rotting away in a cubicle, basically. you
Hmm.
know, all these years, like knowing that that wasn't for you. This life sucks. This is not what I want for myself. This isn't going to provide the life I want for my family, and is just eating at you. And you knew you could do something different, but doing something different, I'm sure, was terrifying. I bet you weren't just like big old smile on your face every day. I bet I bet it freaking took years off your life. I bet you lost a little bit of hair. I bet you put on a little bit of weight or lost weight out of, fear and anxiety. But you had a value of I want to do something different. I need to do something that's in line with who I am. I have a bigger vision for my family. And then there you are, pulling these late nights and working full time during the day, then taking care
Yeah.
of kids, then staying up late to work on your podcast stuff. And that sucked. Like that, I hope you had some fun moments in that, but I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of that really sucked bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you didn't choose the short-term momentary, oh, this doesn't feel good, so I'm just going to avoid it. You
Yeah.
said, I'm going after something here that I want to do, and I'm going to accept whatever discomfort comes with it. And
Yeah.
that, Dan, is how you build a meaningful life. Because
Yeah.
when if you consistently shy away from discomfort, you will end up knowing about yourself that you're not a very strong person.
Yeah.
Like it will be staring you in the face that you are not up to the challenge, that you're not going after anything in life, that you're not building anything in life, and that will end up weighing on you. And
Yeah.
I think it's cool that you went the other way. You said, this really sucks, but I've got to build something here.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is what you've said, and I'm not the only one, man. I'm not the only one. You've even shared um like some of your unhappiness throughout the years of like maybe some work and some jobs that
Mm-hmm.
you've had. But
Mm-hmm.
what's scary is I am a long game. I have kind of been a long game person
Yeah.
where I knew that if I continued grinding it out for 3 years, something at some point was going to happen as long as I stayed consistent and kept doing what I was going to do. And long story short, it paid off.
Mhm.
But what's crazy is depending on who you surround yourself with, as far as other people and how they like how they look at what you're doing, and that could potentially bring them fear or some kind of negative, like I'm working really hard, I'm seeing the goals, I'm seeing the stair step to where I need to be. I know it's going to be a long journey, but other people are like, you are putting so much time and energy into this thing, whatever it is, and you're taking time away from the family. Or maybe I was tired and I wanted to sleep
Right.
in on a Saturday morning instead of go to a farmer's market, or I'm just thinking out loud here,
Right.
but or that course. And then people were just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. And then you hear that, and then it's almost like any fear that you have, it's multiplied, because now it has to be successful in order
Mm.
for this group of people who you respect and love, in order for them to be happy. You need to succeed for not only yourself but for others now too. And I got to a point there where I was just like, holy shit, like
Mm.
the pressure is building and building and building.
Mm.
And I didn't know, like I kind of wanted to quit at a certain point.
Mhm. Yeah. And you had kids at that point, right?
Yeah, when I started, like that's why I'm such a huge advocate for, like, you get out of high school Like if I could tell anybody anything in life that has come from my life, you can call it advice, you can call it,
Wisdom.
wisdom, information. Yes. And that is to start building something immediately. Right. And of course, I had to go through a period of me being a piece of shit in order for me to realize that going to bars and getting hammered every weekend was not the right answer for me.
Right.
Okay. And so
Right.
it took me a long time to figure that out until I actually did it. And when I did it, I had every obstacle in front of me. I had a full time job. I
Hmm.
had uh, a toddler and a baby, and I had a wife who didn't get the explanation necessarily that she needed in order for me to prove to her that I wanted to do this thing, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
it just was more hurdles that I had to go over in
Yeah.
order to get to the end goal. And that's even like today, I'm still not happy with how I run my business. And so there's always a little bit of fear. And I don't know about you, but in any good business, there's a little bit of fear all the time. Like if you are completely settled and there's no fear, like, oh shit, like I've built this thing now. And for me now, I rely 100% on, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So in
Yeah.
order for me to get paid more money, I need to work more hours
Yeah.
and just work or build some additional things. And then from there, it's just like, holy shit, now you're in it. And
Right.
now there's a real fear of,
Right.
I got a mortgage, I got car payments, I got, cell phone bills and all this stuff that have to be paid in
Hmm.
order for this business and this house to run. And so now there's real pressure as opposed to when I had my old job. If it didn't work out, guess what? I still had a full-time job.
Yep.
I just have more time then,
Yep.
so, but I was unhappy.
Yeah.
So this is huge balancing act.
Oh, absolutely. I have so much respect for you for that because it's really something to be able to leave your safety zone.
Yeah.
Like you said, you said your wife is like leery of you doing it because there wasn't proof of concept yet. It wasn't like,
Yep.
you
I
didn't go
like
do
that.
something. You didn't go do something that it was like, it wasn't the same as going to another job where you knew the salary and you knew the benefits and it's like, okay, wife, let's weigh the pros and cons of me changing jobs. And she's like, well, better salary, a few more hours, okay, better benefits, yeah, you can go do that. You're just like
Yeah.
walking out into the wilderness and she's like, we
Yeah.
have a house, we have two little kids, like,
Yep.
I don't know about this.
Yep.
So yeah, that really took a lot for you. Now, oh, I remember. My question was gonna be, dude, how did you finally, like, pull the trigger to leave your job? But now I actually remember your story um, about how you ended up leaving your job, and you can rehash that a tiny bit if you want to, but I'm curious now, how far were you in your podcasting business when you left your job?
Okay. So I didn't leave it by choice. I was on the edge, right? I was at a ready to jump moment
Mm,
where it's like, if you're going to do this, you got to do it. You got to
mhm,
do it. And I was actually in negotiations for a couple big contracts that would have been um, the kind of push that I needed to take that first step into becoming
yeah,
self-employed.
yeah,
Well, what happened was, and it happened probably 2 or 3 months more earlier than what I was actually hoping for, but there was a huge layoff at my company. And I think it was like they pulled me and about 60 people into a room and they said, today is your last day in this working for us. And so I
mm,
had a specific amount of money. And at this point, it's all finances, it's all financial at this point.
yep,
And Um, and that is, I built this thing. I had it for multiple years. I think I started podcasting in 2014. I built my network in 17 and in 18. is when I got laid off. 18 or 19 or something like that
Mm,
is when I got
mm,
laid off. And so I had this kind of, it's time to put your foot on the fucking gas moment. Like
right.
I could have been there like shivering and scared like a wet mouse,
Hmm.
but what I did is, dude, I hate to say it, but I had a lot of people tell me, and when I mean a lot of people, I mean every person, almost everybody except maybe my brother,
Hmm.
who was like, especially as far as family, was like, well, you better start looking for another job. And I'm like, I have something here,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
have this thing. And they're like, well, that's not a real job. That's not a real job. And so because of that, I literally had to, you hear the saying, block out the haters. I had to block out the haters, and the haters were some of the people that I loved the most in my life. And
Hmm.
that's a very hard thing to do, is when
Hmm.
you have people were who are supposed to, who in my opinion, who are supposed to love you no matter what, and and it's not that they didn't love me. They were just concerned that what I was doing was not this traditional type of 9 to 5 job, that
Yeah.
or a factory job, or or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that you know they had doubt. And so I literally had to just block it all out, put blinders on. And
Yeah.
what sucks is I had to stop caring about what they were saying about me.
Mm.
And so I had to put them up, I had to put them to the side, and
Yeah.
only accept, there's a huge filter between them and me.
Yeah.
And so now, and here's the other thing is, you want to talk about fear. Fear is stimulated by fear, right? So their fear snowballed over into my fear, because
Mm.
that's all they were talking about. Oh, how are you going to
Right.
feed your family? How are you going to do this? How are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to do this? And now, like, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to be rude, but this journey is making me more money than any of them,
Hmm.
right? And so now I'm sitting here going like, now what?
Hmm.
And it's kind of a beat my chest moment,
Hmm.
where, but I'm not arrogant about it. I'm just saying, like, now I make more money than you.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well,
And we're now what? So anyway,
let me ask you,
that's a
Dan.
little bit of arrogance.
Well, well earned bravado. That's the that's the recoil. You know the so okay. So I have a question about that
Yep.
still. The people that doubted, did they come back around? Did they ever come around and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that worked out. We're so happy for you. Um, thank goodness that you did that. Like, how did that go? And how is that now?
Some
What was that
some
process
people
like?
did.
Yeah.
So some people just stopped saying it after a handful of years of me proving myself.
Yeah.
And then you got like someone like my mom, and my mom, who is just like, dude, I'm super proud of you. Like,
Yeah.
she went from the fear to seeing the proof,
Mhm.
and then the proof has turned into her basically accepting this whole thing, and
Yes.
now is very,
Yes.
hey, I'm so proud of you in this. But others, they just stop talking about it,
Mhm.
right? They just stop saying, um, the fear stopped, but there's never been any like, hey dude, congratulations, you really pull it off, or like, there, it just, the
Yeah.
negative stuff just stopped.
Yep. And
So which, it is what it is. I can see how they would have fear, and I'm empathetic with their feelings, right? Because man, if, let's say my wife lost her job and she wanted to like start a new endeavor, or was starting a new endeavor, I would be like, I feel like I'd be a little bit more supportive. But at the same time, um, there would be a part of me that would be like, oh my God, you're the insurance, right?
yeah.
You are whatever it is that, like, you're part of this income, like, you're about half of this income. And so there's a lot of things that rely, it's us together. But there were definitely some times where I felt really isolated, and that that gave me fear. But
Mm,
I feel like instead of giving into that fear, I said, fuck it. And I went,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
just go, dude. Just
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Make them wrong. Make them eat their words almost.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. So there's even a lot in there that I want to talk about. So like as you're talking about that, I was just rolling around in my mind the idea of haters versus
Mhm.
people who care about you and are nervous for you. you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
and I think there's a big difference between someone that's just doubting you because they doubt you, or because
Mhm.
you doing something makes them feel insecure because they're not, versus somebody who does have some skin in the game because they care about you, and they're like, oh geez, like, all I know is safety and I care about you, and so I want you to be safe, so I would feel better for you if you would take a traditional route.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't
And
call those people haters. I think they reveal themselves once you're successful. If they come back around and they're like, "Oh, geez, you about gave me a heart attack. I'm
yeah.
so happy that you're doing good. So happy that's working out. Happy you're
Yep.
happy." That's when a person proves themselves as like a person that loves you and cares about you. They weren't a
Yeah.
hater. They were just like, as a parent, it's really nerve-wracking to see my kid standing on the edge of something high. My
Yeah.
kid might know that they're okay and like feel confident doing what they're doing, but I can't even help but have my heart going like, "Oh, maybe you should step back." Like, so that
Yeah.
fear there's difference between like fear that comes from a place of love and fear that comes from a place of judgment.
Yeah. And I understand that. But as the person who is doing the activity or the goal
Mhm.
that others are concerned about,
Mhm.
I felt like I didn't personally have time to sort all that shit out.
That makes
I'm
sense.
like, I don't have time to sit here and explain myself as to why I'm doing this. There were some people who I took the time, my wife specifically,
Yeah.
because she had the biggest impact, like
Yeah.
the biggest, because this was our house,
Yeah.
right? And if I failed, then things would collapse down upon themselves. And really, what would have happened is I just would have gotten another job somewhere, and then there would have just been, a handful of months of discomfort because of that. But what I'm getting at is, um, I didn't really take the time to sort any of that shit out. I
Yeah.
just went. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're either on my side or you're not on my side. And if you're on my side, then I will take time and explain it to you.
Yes.
And so this is really what it comes down to. And this is what I honestly think happened is th- and this is almost something that could be an entire episode, and
Mhm.
that is who I was versus who I am.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people look at the version of our old selves, and I'll use me specifically because I'm very comfortable with talking about how big of a piece of shit I used to be
Right.
back in the day, where I was just like, I didn't have any motivation. All I did was want to drink and party, chase girls. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to build anything. And so from the high school all through college, all through until I got married, right, was just this tornado of chaos, right? It was just a chaos version of myself.
Yeah.
And people saw that. And I think that they judged me on that version of me.
Yeah. Of course it did.
And, so it's the old school. It's like, hey, you sure you can pull this off, dude?
Yeah.
Because I know the Dan Johnson who drinks 30 beers on a Saturday. Like,
Yeah.
that's the Dan Johnson that I know. And so they see that version of me because that's the version of me that they saw the most. And although I personally had switched over to kind of a newer version, or I had motivation now that I previously didn't have,
Mm.
that I knew I was going to do it, but the version of me that they saw or that was in their brain could have never pulled something like this off.
Right. 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 Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm. You know, the
So
Go ahead.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
I I I appreciate your powering through. I think you did have to double down and
Yep.
like really, really reinvest in yourself. There's I really like the idea of practicing courage, not confidence. Because confidence comes after the action, and
Hmm.
courage courage is when you just have to move forward even though you're scared. You
Yep.
know, courage is like when you're going through the haunted house and you're scared the whole time, but you're like, you have to like the only way out is through. And
Yep.
so you did that. So I have a ton of respect for that. Um, I have seen quite a few men in counseling who are doing something in life that their family doesn't understand, and their family's afraid for them to do it. And we talk a lot about they just need proof, and
Mhm.
you have to demonstrate proof. And so if you know that this is a thing that you want to do, you just need to keep moving forward and start making those little victories and those little wins and start gaining ground in your life. And as you do that, the people that care will start to feel better and better and better.
Yeah.
They will feel less and less and less nervous, and to be paying attention to who is who just cares about you and who's rooting for you, and that you can be spoon feeding them your wins as you go to help them calm down, because those are people worth keeping around. Obviously it's nice to have people that are just cheerleaders, but to but for a person who, like your wife in the situation, it would be, I think it's a rare person that's just like, yeah, absolutely,
Mhm.
leave your job and just go start this unknown thing.
Yeah.
That's there are people out there like that. It's maybe even a tiny bit irresponsible if you have a house and little kids to just be like, yeah, fuck it. Throw caution to
Yeah.
the wind. I think it's much more normal for someone to be like, oh my gosh, like this is scary.
Yeah.
Let's be careful with this. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you practiced courage. You just had to like
Yeah.
really summon courage.
Yeah.
Hmm. Uh,
Yeah. It was what would have been I don't want to hog this conversation, so I'm gonna like what has been some of the scariest, most fearful parts of your life
yeah.
that maybe you had to go through and that you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit, dude, this is a sink or swim moment, maybe.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, um, my biggest one was when I started my business as well. I I did it in a way that I wouldn't recommend people doing it, but I think I probably needed to do it just
Hmm.
because of who I am. I basically I had done some groundwork for my business before I left my job, but not a lot. And I was kind of dragging my feet. I was going slow. I wasn't like I think out of fear and unsureness, like if I don't know exactly what I'm doing, then I'm really afraid to do it because I don't want to mess up. And
Right.
I'm like, it's weird. I'm 42 years old and I'm like really noticing how true that is in my life. It's a thing that I don't like about myself that I'm trying to weed out because I don't think I used to be like that. I think I've just, over the years, I think I've just gravitated into safety
Hmm.
more, such that, like I said,
I can agree. I can relate to that 100%.
yeah. Oh yeah. Like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and younger, like dude, I'd be let me work on this dirt bike. Let me tear this engine apart and see what I can figure out and work on this and figure it out and fix it and find the part and then trust myself to put it all back together and da da da. Now my son's got a dirt bike and I'm like, oh geez, I don't know if I want to take the wheels off and take the brakes apart. Like, what if I can't figure out how to put it all back together? And what if I mess it up? And what if I like break something that's expensive and then I have to da da da, or I don't put it back together right, and then it's not safe for it. Like all these like fears just creep in.
Hmm.
And I also recognize that it's perfectionism, that if I can't feel if I don't feel confident already, then I don't want to do it. Which
Yeah.
by the way is a paradox of if anybody out there has smart kids, air quote smart kids, or kids that have been kind of identified as being smart or intellectually gifted, be really careful about them developing perfectionism,
Yeah.
because what happens is people will tell those kids, wow, you're so smart. And then those kids start to like really identify with being smart. And so their whole identity gets wrapped up in looking good, basically. And so they will only, this doesn't happen to everybody, but it's a really common thing that happens. that they will then only go do things that they're good at already, because all of that's just
Mhm.
proof that they're smart. And then they won't challenge themselves. They won't step out of their comfort zones. They won't go do something scary, because if they don't do it perfectly the first time, that's a ego blow. That means that you're not smart anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I don't know if you've ever heard people say that you should really encourage kids, like even if your kid's really smart, you should really encourage like compliment your kids' grit, compliment your kids' effort, compliment your kids like rebounding from failure, compliment your
Mhm.
kids for taking risks, compliment your kids for fucking sticking their nose out there and sticking their neck out,
Mhm.
all of that stuff, because that's stuff that they can control. They can't control how smart they are. So you just don't want to get them wrapped up in, I think we praise success too much, because then anything other than success feels like you're not good enough. But if you can praise like hard work, like, hey, good job getting out there and wrestling. Like that kid was bigger than you. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you got beat, but holy shit, that really says something about you that you went and wrestled him. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
Or like, wow, your baseball team is like 5-20, and you played
Yeah.
this team that's 20-5, and wow, you guys almost beat them.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, you didn't count yourselves out. Like that makes a kid be like, yeah, you know what? That's right. I can do the things. So anyway, I'll
Yeah.
circle back to scary moment in my life. I had been wanting to go into private practice for therapy for a long time, and had taken some steps, and the safest steps actually, and took a very long time to do them because I was really afraid of like making the final jump. And so I finally was like, you know what? I'm never gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this if I don't just make it happen. So
Mhm.
basically I talked to my wife, and we decided a date, and then I told my very safe job at the university, hey, I'm putting in my 1 month um notice, and I quit my job. And
Mhm.
so, I quit my job the day before my birthday. So then my birthday was like my first day working for myself. And that's when I had to be freaking pedal to the metal. And I
And
was
yeah.
I was just a mess. I was so nervous. I was so anxious. I didn't know where to start, but I was like, fuck this. I just have to dive in. And so I
Mhm.
dove in head first, and every day was just figure it out, figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. Ask the questions. I was basically like, hey Kyle, like let's see what you're made of. See what you're
Yeah.
made of, man. Like you've been sitting in safety for a very long time and you haven't been happy there. This is extremely scary for you. You're afraid of failure. You're afraid of not knowing what you're doing. Dude, I fucking hate not knowing what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
hate it.
Yep.
It's one of the worst things in life for me. If I know what I'm doing, dude, I'm like the most confident person. I'm the funnest person to be around. I love who I am when I know what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
hate who I am when I don't know what I'm doing. And that
Right.
that that was the biggest time period in my life where I didn't know what I was doing, and I was a mess. But
Mhm.
the thing I figured was I needed to get rid of my job, because I had to get rid of the safety net, because there wasn't with the safety net, there wasn't anything pushing me into the fear. I
Yeah.
could avoid it. Like, "Oh, yeah, I got this little step done. I got this little step done." And I was just staying in safety while I was doing these little steps while I still had my job. But dude, I wouldn't have done anything if I didn't quit my job. So I quit my job, and I had this immense rush of fear and adrenaline. And then it was every day figure stuff out. And then I started realizing like, okay, this is crazy hard, but I can do this. And then I realized, all right, I also don't have to do this alone. I tried to encourage myself every single day to ask a lot of questions. And like, I also, that's another thing about me, is like, I don't like to look bad. I don't like to look dumb. I don't like to look stupid. I don't like to
Mhm.
look like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like to look like I don't have my shit together. And so for me, asking questions can be embarrassing, because I feel vulnerable. I
Yep.
feel When I'm asking questions, I feel like I'm signaling to people that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then all,
Yeah.
all all of that then loops back into my deeper issue of like times that I don't feel smart or times that I don't feel intelligent. It makes me feel
Yeah.
stupid if I don't know what I'm doing. It's embarrassing to ask a question. So then I just won't do things because I don't want to have to feel that. I just won't
Yeah.
go do something hard. you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah. I feel you 100%. Like, I don't like looking. And I think a lot of that, honestly, if we're going to go down this rabbit hole,
dude, I'm sweating,
and
by the way. Like, I'm
yeah,
talking about that time in my life. Like, you can't see under camera. I'm like rolling my shirt up. I'm like, it's like sweat dripping down my back
that's how
just from
nervous,
like,
that's how
yeah, yeah,
a
that's that,
memory. Yeah.
yeah, dude, exactly. It's nice and cool in here. I'm in my basement. It
Yeah.
feels great down here. And me just talking about this stuff and knowing that I'm
Yeah.
talking about it like where other people could listen to this, like, dude, I'm having like my body's having like I think I'm probably putting off 100 BTUs right now, you know? That's something that's real. It's real
I
shit,
know.
right?
I know.
Real.
And that's where, like, some of this fear probably can manifest its way into some kind of physical. If
Mhm.
you're sitting here talking about a memory and you're sweating, imagine someone who's like, for me, every time I talk about, like, there's a period there where I was in school, dude, I wasn't the smartest kid, man. Right. And I can remember a time where I wasn't smart. People knew it. And, I had a lot of friends,
At
and
school, you weren't smart at school, by the way. That's another thing
yeah.
I've learned is there's lots of different ways to be smart, and we
Mhm.
only like hone in on like this one structure. So like people that are plenty smart in lots of ways will go, I'm not smart because I wasn't smart in school. It's like, oh my
Right.
gosh, you're so much smarter than so many people in these other ways. But anyway, I just wanted to like make that little caveat. Anyway, keep going.
But that's the thing. It's like kind of going back to that old, like, there was, oh, Dan Johnson. I don't want him. He's not very smart, or he jokes around a lot, and so he doesn't take anything serious, which I didn't.
Mhm.
Right. And so,
Mm,
this old version of myself, every time I think back on that, there's this period of time where I think, even when I was younger and my parents went through their divorce, I was literally so worried. I was worrying so much I would physically get ill and throw up before school, because I
right,
didn't want to go to school, and I didn't know what was going to happen and in my life and things like that.
right.
And it was it manifested itself into something. This fear manifested itself into physical reactions.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I've had that before. The fear of the unknown,
Oh yeah.
especially for business, is kind of what we're talking about. That's a pretty, like, that's a pretty deep thing, especially when you have a lot of carrying capacity on your shoulders from others that you have. Like, dude, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I have to carry the load.
Yep.
And if I don't carry the load, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. Right. And
Yep.
you sit there and you allow worry to sink into your mind and into your body. It only gets worse if you
Yeah.
can't cope with it in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. That's
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I totally agree with you. So there's a term for what you're talking about. It's called a psychosomatic response, which is when your thoughts affect your body. Like you're so worried about something or you're afraid of something that it literally affects your body.
Yeah.
Stress can also decrease your immune system. Talk about
Hmm.
another time that I felt like so stressed that I got sick. Was an undergrad, and I was in charge of figuring out housing for myself, my little brother, and one of my best friends. And I had basically talked them into living at this one place that was going to be awesome, but and so they were both like, "Oh, okay," and I was going to be the point person for it, and then it was just not coming together, and it was not coming through, and like the semester was about to start, and like we didn't have a place to live, and my friend like lives in Minneapolis, but was going to school at the University of Iowa, and all of this was on me, and they're constantly asking me like, dude, school starts next week. Dude, school starts in a day. Like, what are we doing here? Where are we gonna live?" And I felt so nervous about it that I got shingles.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, I was like a mess. Like I just felt all this pressure. I felt like a fool. I felt like a moron for getting us into this process. And yeah, I ended up getting shingles and I was like 20, 21 years old or something. I was just like,
Damn, dude.
yeah, it was just a really strong psychosomatic response, or it just shut down my immune system so much that the chickenpox virus reemerged. So that was a big lesson actually. I'm not happy that happened. The part of me actually I definitely took a lesson away from that, which was, dude, chill out. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, if you're going to figure it out either way, then it's not worth getting sick over. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
happy that happened to me a little bit, because I really did ever since then have been like, nope, this will, there's always a way, there's always an option. You can always find something out. We ended up living with all of us, we lived with my parents for like a few weeks into the semester until the housing finally came through. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was extremely nerve-wracking too.
Yeah. And that kind of brings up a idea here where being acceptance of a certain type of fear, especially if you're in a marriage or in a relationship,
Mm,
where I look at fear like there's a fear and how I manage it, and I am way more laid back, right?
mm,
And then, for example, my wife is a worrier. She
uh-huh,
worries everything into the ground,
uh-huh,
and so then what happens is she has more of that because I am not at her same level of worry.
yeah,
And now I have more of it because I'm not at the same level of her worry.
yeah,
Right. So now we have this snowball effect that comes that only builds more pressure,
yeah.
especially if people are vocal about it. Right. Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? I'm like, dude, just chill out. Right. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be all right. But how do you say that to someone else
Yeah.
who doesn't, I don't know, I don't want to say they don't believe you that everything's going to be okay. It's just that they're more susceptible to stress and
Oh, yeah.
anxiety.
Oh, for sure. I think for folks like that, they need the plan. They need to know what the plan is. Not having a plan is very scary for them. Like to say like somebody's really anxious, that's not inaccurate. I also think like another way to look at that is they just have a stronger need for safety. Um, so I like the idea. So then it's like, okay, well, how do I provide them with safety? So I need to
Mhm.
tell them the plan, and I need to show them that I'm executing the plan. And as things start to come together, I need to be showing them evidence of the plan working well.
Mhm.
Because I think the one of the worst things you can do, just generally speaking, one of the worst things you can do when somebody is worried about something is to tell them not to be worried about it. Because
Right.
then you're showing them that you're not taking it seriously.
Right.
And so one of the
Right.
best things you can do when somebody else is worried or nervous is to take it really seriously. Say, "Yes, absolutely. I hear you. I understand why you're worried about this or anxious about this. You're worried about this, and this for these reasons. Let me tell you my plan. And how my plan affects all of those things. And then as I move through my plan, I'm going to be constantly showing you the evidence of why this is working."
Right.
And that's the way to assuage other people's worries and other people's anxiety about almost anything. I mean, it's not a silver bullet to take anxiety away, but you have to show that you take it seriously, and you can't just brush it off. And just
Right.
because you're feeling
Right.
okay about something doesn't mean that they should. So definitely,
Yeah.
and that's a message to everybody listening, like take other people's anxiety seriously, but give them, it's almost like being a good arguer. If you're a good arguer or a good debater, you can anticipate the other person's like arguments, and then you can address them before they even have a chance to bring it up. I think if you're going to be a good spouse or partner or friend, I think you can
Yeah.
do the same with anxiety of like, okay, you're nervous, you're anxious about this, and that makes total sense. I can totally see why you are. Um, here's my plan for that. Here's how this is going to go. Here's the steps I'm taking. You can see me taking them, and as things are going in a good direction, I'm going to be constantly showing you the proof.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to step into the next topic here in a second, but
Mhm.
I want to ask you as a therapist now, what ways can you treat like the fear of failure? Like what should you do on your own
Mm,
when that fear of failure sets in
yeah,
and whether that's a treatment like or a mental like hey you talk to yourself
yeah,
or whatever it is.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so how to work with fear of failure. So you need to see failure as a part of learning and not a verdict. So failure doesn't You have to unhook it from your ego. You have to unhook it from your self-worth, basically, okay? So you basically have to say, I'm not gonna perfect game life.
Hmm.
Um, I am not gonna do everything perfectly the first time. This is a thing worth doing, so it's a thing that's worth figuring out. So I like when I like to help people see situations as you're gonna work to figure this out. You're not just gonna like do this thing perfectly. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. I also like to help them identify where the fear is coming from. Like, are you afraid of embarrassment? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of disappointing others? Are you afraid of losing something important to you? Because that can, depending on what the root of the fear is, then that can help point to what you might need to do to start to overcome it. Then to get into like really practical stuff, then you have to set realistic expectations and you have to like break whatever the thing is down into smaller achievable steps. And you have to focus on progress, not perfection. Um, you also have to give yourself permission to not know. And this is where this was huge for me, which was to harken back to a thing that I used to be really proud of myself that I lost, which is ask a shit ton of questions. Like embrace that you don't know how to do something and go find somebody that can help you. Go find
Hmm.
somebody that knows how to do it. And nowadays there's even like, dude, there's a freaking deeply step-by-step tutorial YouTube channel for everything now, you know?
100%.
That
Yep.
wasn't the case 15 years ago when people are trying to start businesses. You'd have to maybe go find a book and you'd have to
Yep.
read an entire book before you even knew if it was worth reading. But now there's a how-to video for almost everything nowadays, but certainly for like how to start businesses and da 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 all these things. So ask a shit ton of questions and find mentors and find role models and even if they're not as much as a mentor or a role model, just fucking find somebody that's done it
Hmm.
or has an idea. Be willing to look silly. I think a lot of the most successful people in the world are the quickest to ask questions when they don't know something. And they see that they don't see it as a weakness, they see it as a strength. You know?
Hmm.
They're like, why would I
Yep.
spend 10 hours trying to like grind through this and figure it out myself when I could spend 10 minutes and ask somebody who knows how to do this? And they just
Right.
move forward so much faster than other people. And also when you're doing that, when you're making like decent progress as you go, it's just so much less stressful. So I think give yourself permission to be a beginner. Even if it's like, oh, I want to start a new sport, but I'm not, I feel dumb doing it, so I'm not going to do it. Like, no, like give yourself permission to be a beginner. Fully admit that you don't know how to do it. Watch people that are awesome at it and take mental notes. Ask them questions. Go get a coach. I bet it exists out there now, Dan, that you could get a coach to start a podcast. I know for a fact that there are, I didn't know this at the time, or before I did it, but I found out there's people out there who make money by helping people start private mental health practices. Why not pay somebody $500 to like walk you through everything step by step and take a lot of the anxiety out of it. So
Yep.
not being a perfectionist and putting all that pressure on yourself.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
so that's setting kind of realistic expectations. I think then you have to challenge your negative beliefs. I think you have to pay really close attention to what your self-talk is and what's happening in your own inner world. Um, and and I think you need to basically take your inner critic's voice seriously, but then also take really seriously the act of arguing against it. So, like, your
Yeah.
negative thoughts don't get to go unchallenged. So you can
Yeah.
basically be like, "I hear your brain. I hear what you're offering me, but what about this? And what about this? And what about this?" So I do an exercise with my clients where I basically have them, whatever the issue is, I have them write down all of their nervous, worried, anxious, fearful thoughts about it, and then we sit there. So they do that activity quietly. And then I say, okay, read them to me. So they read them to me. And then I say, okay, the first step that we're going to do is we're just going to honor your thoughts. I just want you to look at those thoughts that you've written down and I just want you to honor them. You're not trying to chase them away. You're not trying to push them off or anything. You're just going to let them exist because they do. They do exist. So they sit there and they look at their thoughts and they're like, okay, I just took mental and emotional stock and this is what's there. I say, okay, now read through all of your negative thoughts again. And I want you to tell me if you think that there's a theme present. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So they read through their thoughts and there's always a theme. So they've
Right.
written 5,
Right.
10, 15 negative thoughts, and then they read through them. They're like, oh yeah, like my theme is this. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm afraid of failure, or I'm afraid of looking bad, or I'm afraid that people won't like me, or I'm just afraid of the unknown. You say, okay, cool. So that's your theme. Got it. So then I have them go through all of those thoughts again, and I say, read through each one of those thoughts, and I want you to assess whether you think that thought is based in fear or based in reality. And so I have them write the word fear or write the word reality next to each of their thoughts. And lo and behold, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, most, if not all of their thoughts are based in fear. They're not actually like, because I explained, like, for you to tell me that this thought's based in reality, you have to be able to prove to me that it is definitely going to happen or that it is happening now. And so then, obviously most, if not all the time, it's based in fear. So I say, okay, that's something to know. And all the time, by the way we're doing this is like you're treating your thoughts differently, because what we tend to do is we just take our negative thoughts at face value, and we're just like, we don't even think that we don't even realize we can question them. It's because it just feels so real. They're just these automatic intrusive negative thoughts.
Yep.
um, okay, so we go through all of that, and then they do the fear of reality, and then I say, okay, now for each one of those um, nervous, worried, anxious, fearful thoughts that you wrote down, I want you to come up with a corresponding thought. But the rules for these new corresponding thoughts are that they have to be both true and more helpful. So I say, we're not trying to
Okay.
disprove the original thought, and we're not just trying to find the silver lining. It could be such that you say, given that I do really honestly think this nervous, worried, anxious, fearful thought, something else that's both true and more helpful about it is this. And then they start to make this shift away from fear towards like rationality and reasonability. And so, like, if you were, just to use you lightly as an example, if it was like, hey, what are your fears about quitting your job and do podcasting full time? It's like, God, what if it doesn't work? What if I fall on my face? What if I don't make enough money quickly enough? What if, all these negative what ifs, right?
Hmm.
And there's a million of them, and they're obvious. They're ones that anybody would say, "Oh yeah, no shit, that's scary stuff." So I'd say, okay, well, how many are based in fear and how many are based in reality? And you'd have to say, well, I've never done this before, so they're obviously based in fear. Okay, um honor those thoughts. And what's the theme? Well, I'm just afraid of the unknown. There's no guarantee that this is going to work. Yep, okay, fair enough. So now let's come up with corresponding thoughts that are both true and more helpful. So then you have to go, I make you as the client go through every single one of your own nervous thoughts and come up
Hmm.
with a reason why it's not so bad, or what you would do if that happened. And so then they start to make this shift into and into more reality, and into more like uh adaptive thoughts. So it's like, yeah, what will you do if this doesn't take off as fast as you think? Well, I would keep working hard on my podcast, and I would go get a part-time job if I freaking had to. But I would
Yeah.
keep grinding on the podcast, and as soon as the podcast got good enough, then I'd scrap the job. Yeah, okay,
Right.
cool. I'm afraid that my family and friends won't support me. Okay, fair enough. You have that fear. What else is both true and more helpful? Well, you know what? The people in my life that really care about me, they will stick with me. They will support me. And even if they're afraid, like, I know they'll stick with me. And anybody else that's just a shithead and doesn't care about me, they can go fuck themselves anyway.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and so then you start to when you start to think about your thoughts in a different way, and start to come up with all of these other things that are a lot more adaptive, then those fears shrink a lot. So then after
Right.
I'll have them, I make them do every single thought. And I'll help them too if they can't come up with more adaptive thoughts. I'll help them.
Hmm.
And then once they're done with that, I say, okay, now tell me, read through all of your new thoughts, and I want you to tell me what you think the theme is there. And so they'll read through all their new thoughts and come up with a theme. And for something like your situation, a theme could be something like, you know what? No matter what happens, I'm going to figure this out. Like nothing's unfigureoutable. You know,
Right.
it might not be fun and it might not be pretty, but I actually know of myself, I'm just going to keep doing this and figuring out until it's successful. So then I
Yeah.
say, okay, there you go. Now you've got your path. And then they go, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, my only 2 cents on what you've just said is if you have time to be afraid, you also have time to plan. And that's specifically
Yeah.
for business, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't just wake up and go, I'm going to start a business today, right? You say to yourself, okay, there's steps that need to be had in order to do all these things. You just don't wake up and have a business,
That's
right? So
exactly right.
perfect example is my son, my oldest son, and the neighbor boy down the street decided, hey, we want to start a lawn mowing company. We want to
I
start a
saw
lawn
you.
mowing business. Yep.
Oh,
And and I said,
awesome.
okay, whose lawnmowers are you going to use? Right. Well, or how much are you going to charge? We're going to charge $20. I said, okay. How much? Or then are you guys going to split that in half? They're like, yeah, then we're going to split it in half. Okay. What about weed eating? Okay. Well, we got to do some weed eating too. Okay, cool. You still going to charge $20? Yeah, we're going to charge $20. Okay. Um, how much is you guys going to have for gas, right? And they don't know, right?
Right.
Because they're young. But what I'm doing is I'm asking them these questions to open up their thoughts,
Yeah.
to say, okay, well, okay, yeah, we do need gas. What happens if the weed eater breaks down? You need more string. How much is that going to cost? Oh,
Yep.
I don't know. Well, just you can go to the store and buy it. I go, well, this ain't my business. It's your business, right?
Right.
So I'm starting to have the thought process, and basically what I'm doing there is I'm having them go a little deeper into the planning. And that's the thing that I feel like I did so well,
Yeah.
where you can plan into a certain point, and then from that certain point becomes the unknown.
Oh
But
yeah.
that unknown shrinks the deeper that you get into anything,
Yeah.
right? And then you can say, dude, I've been
Yeah.
here before. There's no fear
Yeah.
here. I just got to take that next step and take that next step. So,
That's right. You know, I bet you've heard this saying before that fear is a mile wide, but an inch deep.
yes.
So it looks terrifying, but when you start
Yep.
doing it, you're like, "Oh, okay, I can do this. I can walk a mile
Yeah.
in inch deep water." But when I was looking at it, it looked like a ocean.
Yep. And I'm
Yep,
writing down
I think
something.
we have to take action despite fear. It's okay to have
Yep.
fear, but I think it's like, uh, acting in the face of fear, I think is like strengthening a muscle. And I
Yes.
think if you don't do it, you keep yourself really, really weak. And if you're willing to start moving towards it, even just with small acts and trying to get lots of support from people that care about you, it's just like starting to work a muscle that
Yep.
it's going to your ability to take action despite fear will get stronger and stronger. And your conceptualization of fear will get weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yep. Yep. I like you had a quote there, and I have to pull a quote from a movie. It's actually one of my favorite movies with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze,
Mm,
Point Break,
mm-hmm.
right? And they're in the van, and he goes, fear causes hesitation, and hesitation causes your worst nightmares to come true. And so I don't know why, but that quote is so badass. And I think about it whenever I'm kind of making decisions. It's like you
Yeah.
can sit here and be afraid, or you can go, right? And
Yep.
because if you sit and afraid, then everything that you think is going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, okay, we got to put a stop right here on the failure part of it.
Okay.
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 Because what is the opposite of failure? It's success.
Okay.
And there are people out there, and I don't know if maybe there's parts of me that have kind of run into this scenario, but there's also people who are afraid to
Mm,
find success
mm,
and to have success.
mm.
And so, and maybe that is a culmination of I've lived in this bubble for so long. I've worked really hard, and now I don't know what to do now that I'm here,
Yeah.
right? Because it may open up a whole bunch of other doors. It's like, oh, dude, I got it. I'm here, but in order for me to maintain it, I got to do all these other things, which causes me to have more fear. So, do you ever see anybody who is afraid of being successful?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's lots of things that come to mind. When you said that, three came to mind right away. So there's a lot more than this, but the first thing that I notice about clients that are worried about being successful is then they become worried of having it taken away.
Yeah.
So like that would be embarrassing or humiliating, or that it's actually really hard to like get your hopes up about something, then have it not happen, then you feel even worse. So then there's once you build something, then there's the pressure of keeping it going. And so
Right.
a lot of people like they can get themselves to do the, you know, all the hard work to get it viable, but then they're like
Yeah.
afraid of the pressure of keeping it going. I
Yeah.
think that ties into the second thing, which is imposter syndrome. That they feel like it was a fluke that it's going well, or they feel like they don't deserve their success, or they feel like other people might be judging them and secretly doubting them.
What
So
is
they
imposter syndrome again?
yeah. Imposter syndrome is when you think you don't actually deserve what you're getting. You don't think you actually are. You're afraid that other people are going to find out that you're not actually as good
Mm.
as you think you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh,
When
eh,
when in when in reality you are, because you've gotten to that place already.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yep. So a lot of
Okay.
people, it's a big thing. Anytime you start a new job, you're like, really nervous that people are going to find out that you're really not that good. It can happen in sports. That you're afraid that like even if you're doing well, you're afraid that at any moment people are going to find out that you're really not as good as they think you are. That it's all the bottom's going to fall out from under it. Oftentimes, anytime somebody has to like if someone has to earn their way into something, then once they're in, imposter syndrome can set in because they're like, oh God, like, yeah, I just made myself look good on my resume, but like, what if they find out that I'm really not as good as I made myself out to be?
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's
Right.
a really common thing. So they're basically afraid of like having to if you have success, then you're afraid of having to keep it up.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit,
Yeah.
what if this was a fluke? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What if this only goes well for a little while and then the bottom falls out and then I'm gonna look like a moron?
Yeah.
So actually a lot of people will either self-sabotage, which is engaging in behaviors that make things go poorly, or they just won't even try because they they're so afraid of things going well and them not being able to keep it up that they would rather just not even start to begin with.
This is a concept that ha- really blows my mind, is this self-sabotage
Yeah,
thing, and why
yeah,
people do that. So I am unfamiliar with it. So I'm going to lay out these scenarios and I want you to talk about it. And that is like, I am good. I am happy. I am in a state of almost zen in my life. My business is going well. I have a great marriage. All of these things are happening for this individual, and all of a sudden they go, this, like something sparks in their head and they say, this is too good to be true.
yeah,
I'm going to start behaving in a different way because of all of these positive things.
yeah.
Why do people do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you basically just laid it out. It's kind of like I don't know if you have you ever been doing something, being successful at something, like something's just going well, and then all of a sudden you become really self-aware, and it makes you nervous, and it makes the whole thing crumble.
Yeah, yeah, but I guess I become self-aware where I know maybe how fragile a specific environment is, or my maybe
Uh,
a business where like I'm self-aware that if I stopped putting out podcasts, that my business would fail.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's that kind of
Well,
self-awareness.
here's what happens, Dan. It's not an all of a sudden thing.
Hmm.
It's usually that thoughts start to creep in and thoughts start to poison you. That things are going well, and then we don't actually know exactly how many thoughts we have a day, but it's obviously thousands and thousands of thoughts, and most of them just go by, and we don't get hooked into them. But dude,
Yes.
every once in a while, a thought will go by. It could be an anxious thought that we'll get hooked into a little bit, and now that's in the recipe.
Yep.
Now that ingredient is there, and it starts to, like, if we don't do a good job of eradicating it quickly, then that one little negative thought that we got hooked into, we can spend a tiny bit more time thinking about it. And then we can spend a tiny bit more time thinking about it. And then we can spend a tiny bit more time thinking about it. And that is how these negative thoughts creep their way in. Because once you've thought about something, it makes it easier to think about it again. And
Yeah.
so, and then people can get caught up in like trying to not think about it. And then, but our brain's not really capable of the negative. Like we
Yeah.
can't not think about something. And so like those negative thoughts just start to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's when they start to affect us.
That's very interesting because I get in a car every day and I know that if I don't stop at a stop sign, I could get in an accident. Or
Hmm.
if I am on my phone, for a long period of time on a road, I could get into an accident or a deer could jump out from me.
Yeah.
But I don't let that shit paralyze me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something there where
Yeah.
like positive awesomeness, and then you get to a point you've worked so hard to get to, and then it's all of a sudden, oh my god, and you shrink back in again. That's something, and that's something that I'm interested in because, and the reason I'm interested in it is because I don't necessarily know if I've experienced that yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All I know is that I got to keep doing what I'm doing because of the fragile, the fragile state of the environment that I live in, because all things take work,
Yeah.
relationships, between father and kids,
Hmm.
husband and wife,
Yeah.
business and income and revenue and things like that. But I just don't understand why someone would just all of a sudden go, I am so afraid of being happy that I want to ruin the happiness that I'm already in. That blows my mind.
Right. Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. It does seem paradoxical, but also again, I
Uh-huh.
don't think it's not usually all of a sudden. It's
Yeah.
usually these negative thoughts are pretty insidious. Like they work on you slowly and they slowly creep in and they slowly
Mhm.
affect you. And they can, if what you do kind of depends on you like being able to be loose and just like go with your instincts, once you start getting in your head too much, now you're de-skilled because you can't be
Yeah.
loose. You can't go with your instincts. It's I think an example of it happening quickly, which again I think is more on the rare side. I think when people like self-sabotage relationships or their own business or their jobs or whatever, that tends to happen slower. I think an example of it happening really quickly is like, let's say that like a kid's, I know we use baseball as like as a an example really often. I think that's because it's such a great example of many things in life. But let's say that a kid's been playing great in this game and it's like a really big game and like you're playing a team that's like way better than you, but you're hanging in there and you're like it's coming down to the wire and you've actually been having a super good game, the whole team's playing great, but and everybody's just in the flow and like good things are happening and this is happening, that's happening, it's really easy for everybody to be pumped. Then maybe it's like you've seen momentum shift or like maybe one bad thing happened, it's like okay, no big deal, we can still do it. And then maybe another bad thing happened and the other team starts to like catch back up, and all of a sudden your confidence starts shrinking because like oh my god, we were beating them by a lot, but now the other team's starting to like get back into it and the momentum is shifted. And now maybe it comes down to this last at bat and you had a lead that you blew,
Mhm.
not because of your fault, it just stuff happens. And now you're really realizing like uh-oh, this is all comes down to me. This isn't just fun and games now. There's pressure. If I don't do this, then we're going to lose and our team's going to look bad and I'm going to disappoint everybody right now. And now all of a sudden you're really tense and you can't, you're not just the go with the flow, confident batter up there. Like, yeah, bring it on. You're like
Yep.
terrified, right? You're
Yep.
not going to
I
perform
get
as
it.
well. And I just
I
hope to
get it.
God that you do in that moment. And you hope you do, but you have to admit that you're not the same batter as you were when everything was just like going your way.
Yeah. How do you deal with it that moment, or how do you suggest people deal with those moments? Or maybe you have a moment of self-awareness where you're like, dude, I am letting this negative energy creep in right now.
Yeah. Yep. I think that go harkens back to what we said a little bit ago about building that muscle of being able to do that. which is
Right.
why I think youth sports are so important. I think the real skill there is to say, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to do my best and see how it goes. As opposed to, uh-oh, if I'm not successful here, then I'm worthless, or I'm going
Hmm.
to let everybody down, or I'm a piece of shit. I
Yep.
think that the mindset to cultivate is you don't know if you're going to get a hit or not. I want you to be as loose as you can. I want you to see this at bat as like a fun opportunity, and
Yeah.
just see what happens. And maybe you get a hit and maybe you don't. But I'm really just super proud of you for going up there and
Yeah.
giving it a shot. Like that's the stuff to focus on. Now when it comes to like that's out of your control if you can get a hit in a scenario like that. I think when it comes to like business and stuff like that, I think it's more of like a, hey, you know what? The thing I know about myself is I'm just going to keep working until this is successful.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, I'm just going to keep grinding at it. And if I get knocked down a hundred times, I'm going to have to get back up 101 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's that
That's something that
self-talk.
I, yeah, that's something that I don't know. And this is from a father standpoint, especially with my kids. I don't necessarily celebrate the victories. I celebrate the hard work that leads to the victories,
Yeah.
or I celebrate the overcoming of an obstacle that has led to that. So, like anytime there's a hit, so my son went on a streak where he went on a streak where he struck out like four or five times in a row, and he was just in a slump, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so we went back to the drawing board. We worked on his swing, um, multiple days in a row, and then he went on a 5 game streak where he hit the ball, and he's been starting to hit the ball much better now. And so I celebrate that. I go, do you know why this is? It's because you have put in the additional work to get better.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of is almost what all of this boils down to is how much work and energy do you want to put in to finding happiness and finding success in a marriage or
Yeah.
being a father
Yeah.
or your business or any activity the more you live in an environment, the more comfortable you become in that environment, and when you're comfortable, then it is easier. And the other thing is being smart enough, or not, shouldn't say smart enough, is being able to identify cues that will help a person know what is coming, like being able to forecast your wife's emotions after, like
Yeah.
certain pressure situations, or how
Yeah.
your kids are going to feel after they strike out, or, oh God, now what happens that my business hit a road bump? Well, I've done this before.
That's
I
right.
gotta, I gotta do it. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of like being able to forecast that stuff helps the pressure go away because you've been there
That's
before.
right. It comes from experience, which means that you
Yep.
have to purposefully choose to be uncomfortable, which is why your comfort zone will just cripple you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Comfort cripples.
Yep. Yep. And I feel like, I'll be honest, in my business, that's where I'm at. I'm in a state of comfort right now. And I know
Mhm.
that I got to get uncomfortable here to take that next step in my business.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a fear that I'm going through right now because I know how hard I had to work in the first place to get to this state of comfort.
Huh.
I know that there is I have to now break a state of comfort and get really uncomfortable to go into that next stage. And both from a financial standpoint and a time and energy standpoint.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
though, dude, that's something that like I got a whiteboard over here that's blank right now,
Yeah.
and I need to put a lot of stuff on it in order to make the next step happen. And it's the thing that I know is I'm not breaking my state of comfort. I'm also breaking other people's state of comfort.
Yeah.
And that is the hardest thing that
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get over.
Yeah. Yeah, right, absolutely. I mean, that's we're kind of harkening back to the I'm not saying you're self-sabotaging, but
Yep.
harkening back to that of like
Hmm.
you've got possibly kind of self-sabotaging thoughts that hold you back.
Yep.
from, oh, I should, I don't want to like risk this or that, and I don't want to make these people feel uncomfortable, so I just won't do
Hmm.
this, and I won't do that. I could, but I won't, because I
Yep.
don't know. There's no guarantee, or it'll be so much work that I don't want that discomfort in my life.
Yep. That's a fact. That's a fact, my friend. Um, Anything else we need to know about how to manage maybe the fear of success
Hmm. How to manage the fear of success.
or
Yeah.
the fear of maybe not having success but getting to be successful?
Yeah. Yeah. I think people put way too much emphasis on being needy for certain outcomes. And I really encourage people to try to focus so much more on your values and your process. So it's like, yeah, you want to have a successful podcast. You can't control how successful it is, but just go be the person that works hard and tries to develop it, right? And
Yes.
always focusing on the effort rather than the outcome, I think, is a really good way to mitigate fear. So it's like, oh, I'm afraid of success. So like why not say, you know what? I don't know how successful this is going to be. I just know of myself that I work hard.
Right.
You know, I think
Right.
when we cling to outcomes, I think that's like a really strong breeding ground for fear. I think it's a
Right.
lot more like, what type of person are you? Be the type of person that you are, and then be cool with whatever the results are. So if you're a hard worker, that's the thing to focus on. Things will go well.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, you don't have to have a specific outcome, because that stuff's fragile. Like the market could change. Like even for you, even for me, I'll just use myself as an example. I could think I need to have my private practice be successful, or like I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do in life, and like it's really
Yeah.
gonna negatively affect my family if it doesn't. But dude, what if AI takes over my job?
Oh, right.
And that's
Right.
real. Like it could. It's getting crazy good. AI is
Yeah.
crazy good, and it's in its infancy. So it's a real thing. What if AI takes over my job and like my whole profession disappears?
Hmm.
What will I do? Well, that could either cripple me, or I could say, yeah, you know what? I think that I'm a strong enough person that I could find another thing to do.
Right.
So you have to believe in yourself, but that's a thing you have to cultivate, is that muscle to be okay being uncomfortable. So you have to
Right.
be really try hard to be adaptable. Yeah, if my job disappears, I will go find something else. I guarantee you, I will go find something else. I will figure something else out. And for that reason, I'm less worried about my job disappearing.
Right.
But only because I know of myself that I'll step up to the challenge. So that's why you
Right.
have to cultivate the type of person that you want to be, rather than cultivating success in your life.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I like that. Okay, so I feel like some of the next steps here, we get into another like Pandora's box of topics
Hmm.
with fear. So I'm thinking maybe we do a two-parter on this,
Okay.
because then here are a couple, and maybe we can elaborate. We've talked about the fear of success and the fear of failure today. That has been the main topic, but I feel like I've jotted down a couple bullet points.
Okay.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
That
Analysis
is
paralysis. Yeah.
that's something that I know that I do in my hobby a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Fear of judgment.
Mhm,
Um, I have the word pressure written down, but I think that kind of correlates with everything that we talk about.
mhm,
And then the other thing that I know, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just say the bullet point: the fear of missing out or the fear of comparison.
mm,
I feel I feel like that. Like I know when I was a kid, I had fear of missing out big time,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And as an adult, I don't necessarily think I have that as much anymore. But I know others that do. And so I know my kids have fear of missing out. Like I have to go to this birthday party, or I have to um like everybody's doing this, so I have to do it too, type of
Right.
deal, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's
Oh
a
yeah.
little comparison in there.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think about picking this topic up on next week's episode and having a part 2 of
Love
the
it.
fear conversation?
Love it.
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right, my friend. Well, huge shout out to everybody who has been following along this far. I really appreciate it. Sending good vibes to all of you. Kyle, sending good vibes to you and your family. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. If you guys want to leave a review, like I mentioned earlier, on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a 5-star review. We're just a couple dudes trying to break down life, really,
Right.
is all we're doing here.
Damn right.
And we're doing it for the man of the men in this world. So good vibes in, everybody, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, Dan.